hello and welcome to Simuldub Saints, your guide to seasonal anime dubs. I'm your host, Laserkid, and with me as always is my trusty co-host.
Hello, I am Archangel, lover of cat girls.
You've been listening to our theme song, Wherever I Go, from friend of the podcast, Ampren. Please check out their awesome music, link in the description.
And in this episode, we are shouting out the Y-Files. More about him at the end.
I should say them because Hecklefish is a part of it, although it's just a puppet fish, but you know.
That counts.
Yeah, it does.
It's part of the cast.
It is part of the cast. I actually love
just like Rabbit is absolutely part of the Worth a Bite cast.
There you
to take
go.
another example.
But we'll get into them here later on, and that's on me because this is one of mine. All right. Well, that aside, we've got some news. So this week we've got just a couple big pieces. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an Aristocrat season 2 premieres in 2027.
Excellent. So that's an interesting. I need to get back to those LNs, but
I keep meaning to read them because season 1 is so good.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know if you watched it. I know you read it.
I've watched it.
Oh yeah,
I was curious how well they did. It's about it tracks.
Yeah, that's fair. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. And very excited to see more of that.
It's interesting because in as far as they can be, everyone involved is acting pretty sensibly, which makes it very interesting and efficacious to me.
Indeed. Our next piece of news is My Hero Academia Anime releases a new trailer for the extra episode More, which will debut on May 2nd later on. Which, by the time this comes out, it'll be out, because we're on a little bit of a delay. So by the time this hits, that will be in the history books. But at this point, it's news. So let us know how you liked My Hero Academia More, the one episode More that takes place a few years after the end of the series. Kind of a denouement of sorts of how did they end up afterward, which I for one am very excited for. Epilogue is a way to put it. I prefer the term denouement, but yes, both are accurate.
Okay.
And then our last piece of news, and this is just me because I love this show. Trapped in a Dating Sim, the world of Otome games is tough for Mob. Season 2 anime has been revealed to actually be releasing in summer, July 2026. And they even have a trailer for it now. I thought this was going to be a spring show, and I was really excited because I really enjoyed season 1. It is a show that I personally like to call I'm Trapped in a Dating Sim, and I hate it! And it is so fun. So, we're here to talk about a high dive show. It's been a minute since we talked about a high dive show, primarily because the last set was we talked about it in the award show, and there were some things.
It was whelming.
Yes, Dusk at the after the end of the world was okay. It could have been something, but it just kind of fumbled what it was trying to do. And so that's all they had for a while. So we haven't had a chance to talk about them. And then we had this one, Hell Mode, and another one which we might talk about in the future, the Reincarnated Dragon Hatchling, and that's what we're watching right now. And Hell Mode, first of all, it's further along. Dragon Hatchling is considerably earlier on in its run, so
Hatchling so far is great, but it's fine, but it's nothing extraordinary.
The main thing about Dragon Hatchling that makes it fun is that Adam Gibbs is in it.
Say his name and he appears.
There's that, and I think it has if it's gonna turn into something worth talking about, it'll be once he really starts interacting with the humans in earnest, which is just about to start happening. So
I think so. It is fun though. Do recommend it. So if you want to, if you've got I wouldn't buy High Dive for it, but if you have High Dive, I'd give it a shot. This one is definitely worth scoping regardless. Especially, and now both cases these are isekai, so you gotta understand you're dealing with isekai here. But
it is isekai season.
It is isekai season, and this was one of the 8 that I gave the isekai a bell for, and here we go. So our main character is a super pro gamer dude who's like who's annoyed at the game being too easy, and he's asked if he wants to do a hell mode.
One of these people who are very arrogant about that. It's not even that. It's just he loves the grind, so he should really be Korean instead of Japanese. But
Oh no,
it's a Japanese show.
This absolutely works for a Japanese gamer.
You're missing the joke. It's a stereotype.
I'm aware, but it's also a major stereotype for Japanese gamers as well. Is what I was getting at.
Okay.
His thing is not even necessarily it needs to be difficult. He wants it to take a while. He's one of those gamers that if it's under 100 hours, he thinks it's a waste of time.
Well, he's talking in terms of years because this is a truly hopeless case.
Yes. I was using that as a general term, but yes, this guy is like, if it doesn't at least take me 10 years, what's the point? God, people like this are why I hate modern games, by the way. Insert rant here. I like to finish my games, but I don't want to commit to like 200 hours. Thank you.
Well, the best way to do this is to have the core game be relatively reasonable, but then make
have a post game.
Either post game or it's like, if you really want to go and do everything, that lasts forever.
Anyway, our pro gamer man over here is offered a hell mode where he can really get at it, and he accepts. And for his trouble, he gets isekai'd.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to mind because he's
That's the funny part. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he's
just like, I'm a baby now. All right.
But your whole life is the game, just like so to him. I don't think that he sees any distinction because his whole life was games. Now his whole life is a game. What's the difference?
And in this world, his name is Alan. He is voiced by the legendary Lucy Christian. She is everywhere lately, I swear. That's Uravity, Ochako Uraraka in My Hero Academia, Nami in One Piece, Lisa Suzumiya in Rock is a Lady's Modesty, and that list goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
I wonder if, because I'm sure this is going to go eventually to the point where he grows up enough that his voice drops because he hasn't hit puberty yet in the story. I wonder if they're going to switch VAs when he gets to that point.
I don't know. I could see it. I could also see them keeping Lucy, just having her pitch up.
Lucy's, I don't know. I mean, because Lucy's voice is, we'll see what she can do, like physically, because her voice is perfect for him as a boy right now, but especially for guys, your voice dramatically changes in puberty.
It does. So, I do want to point out it's not Lucy Christian, but it is one of her fellow Straw Hats, because again, Lucy Christian is Nami in One Piece. Monkey D. Luffy is voiced by Colleen Klinkenbeard, and when she started voicing Luffy, it was very much a boy's voice. But the show does have a 2-year time skip, a 3-year time skip actually. And at the end of that, his voice actually does deepen. And I only even noticed it because I've been watching older episodes with buddy of the podcast J-Mac from before that time skip, and then on my own, of course, I'm well past the time skip.
Okay,
and it's a completely different. I mean, it's recognizably the same person.
If he stays relatively short and slight, then I can totally see her being able to do that. But if he grows. Right. Well, if Alan grows up to be like a big guy, the taller you are, the longer your vocal cords and the deeper your voice. Yeah, Luffy's relatively short.
Luffy is not short.
Okay. Well, anyway. So then I'd call that suspension of disbelief. But whatever.
Well, I was trying to explain to you is that deeper voice that Colleen's able to do actually really works. I'll have to play it for you at some point, just a clip or something.
Well, if that's just a technique that you can learn, then no problem.
I imagine it's a mix. I imagine it's a mix of A, technique, but also B, your natural voice, because there's variance in women's voices just as much as there is in men's.
True.
So I don't know that
we should ask.
She might be able to.
If we know any VAs, especially female VAs, we should ask.
Absolutely. But anyway, Ellen's the funny kid. As mentioned, this is a gamer mind. This guy just grinds like crazy. He gets the class of Summoner, and he uses that to summon, well, at first just little bugs. He's trying to keep it hidden, and so far he's been able to. I don't know how long that's going to last. But he's using his summons, progressively getting more and more impressive as the story goes on, to try and just level himself up, as it were. Problem is that he's a serf. He's locked to the land. He cannot leave. He is born to a family of serfs, but his father is actually a fairly famous one. That would be Rodin, voiced by Jeremy Gee. That's Leon in Hero Without a Class, and Dr. Goro Amamiya in ENGI Co. Rodin is kind of the local celebrity. He's the head man of the boar hunts that they do in this village.
And an all around Chad.
Oh, dude, Rodin is on the short list for Chad of Spring, I swear. I don't know that he's going to make it yet. That's too early to say, but he is on that list.
Considering that one incident, I think he deserves to be on the list. But
I agree. He's definitely worth considering. I don't know about all the other characters enough yet to say for sure. He's definitely in the high consideration pool. I don't want to promise this early on in the season when we don't know anything about anything else.
Fair enough.
But he's amazing. And yeah, this guy gets stuck with all kinds of situations, and he's able to deal with them. And he has this penchant for naming his kids after monsters, which is rather frustrating to his wife, Teresia.
Yeah, not directly, but taking a cue from it.
Yes. And Teresia is voiced by Annie Wilde. That's Tamaki Shiraya in Rock is the Lady's Modesty, and Beta in The Eminence in Shadow. We're gonna hear her again because she's also someone else in this exact family unit. But she's a cute mom character. She doesn't do a whole lot, but she does enough.
Both the parents are relatively young, and they're both very good looking, to the point where, because Alan's the oldest and it's a baby, he's looking at his parents and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have little siblings.
And he sure does.
Mm-hmm.
The first of which is his younger brother Mash, voiced by Callan Coates. That's Chi in The Eminence in Shadow, and Kiwi in Maiden Abyss. Mash doesn't do a whole lot, but it's the direct family. I wanted to mention the whole direct family.
This not stupidly strong, sadly, but we like him anyway.
But he's got about the same amount of brain cells. But
he's a little boy. Don't expect too much.
That's what I was gonna say but he's a baby, unlike Mash. Of course, Mash.
Yeah, no, he's normal. So
he's cute. And then the baby daughter, who gets voiced by the mom. Teresa's like, all right, enough of your monster-inspired names. I've got this one. And this is Eula, voiced again by Annie Wilde, which makes all the sense in the world using a voice actor you've already got on hand, because Eula just does baby noises.
Yeah. And even then, it would make sense for a daughter to sound like her mom.
It does. So that is, again, Annie Wilde, which we've already gone into. But yeah, that's the voice of her own mother. Pretty funny, honestly. A side note for all you guys out there doing your voice acting lists. Also, gosh, why is there not even a page for this behind the voice actors? But my anime list...
They seem to be backed up.
Yes,
I think they need more people. So yeah, if anyone's bored,
but that's not where I was going with this. That was kind of an aside.
Okay.
My anime list missed almost all of these credits. I had a hard time until I realized High Dive themselves announced their cast right there in their High Dive news section, and they have literally everyone. Characters I haven't even seen yet.
You mean they actually did their job?
I know! Crunchyroll, look! You could just make a quick web page of saying, hey, here's the full cast list. It's amazing.
Because here's the thing. I mean, giving credit where it's due, from a professional point of view is a big fucking deal. I mean, because I worked briefly as an assistant to academics, and crediting people and accrediting people is a huge deal. It can ruin your career if you forget to cite somebody, because it's professional courtesy. And it should be, and I think it is the same way in theater, because
Mhm.
that's how people get more work.
But yeah, no, I wanted to highlight and praise High Dive here
Hmm.
because they are the reason I'm able to credit all these voice actors. I was able to get several early on, like some of the main guys from my anime list and dubbing wiki. Dubbing wiki actually had more than even my anime list, which is really surprising. I have several sources. It usually goes behind the voice actors, my anime list, dubbing wiki, voiceover wiki. But in this case, most of them came from High Dive directly, which I'm very happy about. Anyway, that's a little side rant, but I felt like, I had to give credit where credit was due. So, anyway, that's Alan's direct family, but they have basically a family that is the friends of the family.
Yeah,
And that is
the parents are best friends, so it's like one large family essentially.
mhm. And that is headed by Gerda, voiced by Joe Daniels. Always happy to hear Joe Daniels. That's Azudra and Helk and Kongming, and yeah, boy, Kongming.
Well on his way to becoming the legendary Joe Daniels.
Oh, dude, Joe Daniels is so much fun. There's another
Yes.
voice actor in here who I'm always happy to see, and I haven't seen in a while. Joe Daniels is always good to see, though. And Gerda is, of course, best buds with Rodin. They actually came to this village together with their wives to help this village get started, which is kind of
Mhm.
cool.
And yes,
Uh,
they are serfs, just so people don't get confused. They are serfs, but it was people were given an option from several other domains. You're still a serf, but you have the choice to come here to this newly established domain, and they took it because it's opportunity.
hmm So yeah, and then his wife is Mathilda, voiced by Kara Greenberg. That's Asta in Helk, and Sanai Furukawa. That's the mom of Nagisa in Clannad. So she does a mom quite a bit. Mathilda is pretty nice. I don't have a whole lot to say. Both of the moms are there, and they're not no character, but they don't do much beyond typical mom things.
Right, because most of the story concerns stuff that's away from home,
Yes,
and
also even the parts that don't typically primarily focus on the kids or Rodin specifically. Even
yeah, the dads.
Gerda doesn't. No, even Gerda doesn't get much. He gets a little,
Yeah,
but
um,
not a lot.
yeah, he gets there. There's some scenes, but yeah, not as much as you think.
Rodin's the adult that gets most of the focus in the
Yeah.
families here. And of course, Gerda and Mathilda's have a child, and her name is Karena, voiced by Natalie Rial. That's a Toha Kurogane in Rocks the Lady's Modesty, and Kana Arima in Oshino Ko. And Karena, well, we might as well just jump straight to the point. In this world, you get scanned at a certain age for talent.
Pretty standard stuff.
Oh yeah, this
So
is this is a
all
thing.
we can define Krenna's personality in one word: tomboy.
I could give you even one more word: sword. It's
Yes.
not even just tomboy. It's a little just literally give this girl a sword and she will just go at it.
Yeah, even before it turns out that she has the talent of Sword Lord,
Now we all know that
which is
Alan is a summoner, but due to a bug in the system, no, literally, he even gets an apology from the devs. Yes,
right. So
really.
Alan goes up to get scanned. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to be acknowledged as a summoner. This will be so cool." And we'll talk a little. We need to remember to talk just a little bit about how his summoner stuff works. It's complicated, but we can talk a little bit about it. But basically, he gets garbage text on the scanner thing, and the priest just goes, "Huh, you must be classless." And it's like, so I wonder if that's what normal classless means, or it looks like, or if the priest just
Didn't care enough and just
unimaginative.
like, what the heck is this? I
I
don't
got
know.
the feeling he didn't care. So
That's the
Alan
feeling I
literally
got
puts
too.
in, Yeah, Alan literally puts in a support ticket through. He has this book that only he can see that he can summon. That's his stat screen. And he literally puts in a support ticket, and he gets a response,
which is freaking great.
Yes.
Yeah, we mentioned this when we were talking with Sketch about it the other day. It was kind of great.
Yeah. Oh god.
But yeah, Krenna turns out to be the Sword Lord, which is a big important thing, which no one is all that surprised given how obsessed this girl is with swords.
Yeah, so
and she is
having a talent at all is relatively rare. And most people of any social class are just not castless, what's the word? Talentless. And so having this, and this is rare among rare and very important for defense, both against other humans and especially against monsters. So she immediately becomes of significant interest to the kingdom.
Indeed. Before we get into that, though, I think you made a good point. It sounds like you're raring to go. So why don't you tell us, how does Alan's summons work?
I forget all the details, but basically,
I do too. But you sound like you remember.
Okay, so I'm going to give a very brief explanation. Right. So he can expend MP to create, like they manifest as like cards, like summon cards, but critters of different grades, and it goes G through S. And this applies to wild monsters as well. And so having those cards just in his inventory actually boosts his capabilities. And the more of them and the better of them, the more it boosts. And then he could do the combining stuff persona style to create higher level things. So as time goes on, basically he starts to get steadily overpowered even without summoning anything. But he's still, once he gets critters that can actually fight, because his initial critters can't really fight in a useful way. But eventually he starts, by the point we're at, he's usually, mobbing enemies with mobs of summons, but he can still fight himself. And does.
Yep. And of course he gets little boosts from their stats and everything, which is great.
Yeah. Right. So that the point is, it's stacking up. It's like, imagine if in Pokemon, every ball on Ash's belt, and the more higher level and the more rare the Pokemon that was in that ball let Ash punch harder or dodge better, like just in normal life.
Fair comparison.
So yeah, that would actually be kind of interesting. Watch Ash and Team Rocket, get into fist fights and stuff.
Well, and early on where this comes into play is Krenna wants someone to spar with, and that turns out to be Alan, because
Alan is literally the only person anywhere near there who can keep up with her.
Indeed. But this, of course, as mentioned, her being a sword lord attracts attention. First from the local lord, the chieftain, Deboji, was by Mark X. Laskowski. That's Shinpachi Shimura in Gintama the movie, specifically that first movie by High Dive, or by Sentai Filmworks, rather. And then Kota Hirano in High School of the Dead. This guy... He's kind of like this mid-tier noble, like low-tier noble, mid-tier in the story where we're at. He's like between the serfs, after the commoners, but before like the really heavy guys.
He gives this first impression of being really useless, wishy-washy, and so forth at first, mainly because of his voice. But he does actually care, and he does genuinely do his best for his people, serf or commoner.
He's the kind of local lord you actually want, because typically he lets them be, unless he's given something from higher up. And even when he has gone out of his way to talk to the serfs and explain what's going on and why it's going on, and try to work out how to make that work with them. Dude, for a feudalistic society, that is a unicorn.
He's got two brain cells to rub together. Because he realizes, quite rightly, that this is how you get results out of people.
Absolutely. I'm actually quite impressed with Debochi. That's who you want in the local lord.
Yeah, but his first impression is just an eye roll.
The first impression is
but
just
once you see him actually work, Yeah,
I,
it's mainly the
I,
voice. It's
I,
mainly the voice.
it is mainly voice. I kind of wonder if that's intentional, like casting, though,
Absolutely intentional.
because
Um,
your first impression is, oh God, this is a guy from California who thinks he's better than you.
Yeah.
Said as a native Californian.
mhm.
And of course, his son does initially live up to that stereotype. That's Palomas, voiced by Kira Vincent Davis. That's Vermilio in Helk, so you know that she can bring the contempt into her voice for Palomas. And Osaka in Azumanga Daioh. And this guy starts off as an absolute little shit of a basically local thief prince. He's not an actual prince, but he may as well. He acts like he
Yeah,
thinks he is.
he's
And
he's the
yet,
chief's son and heir.
and
You
yet
know,
he does. He gets kind of a shellacking for it, and he learns from it.
yeah. I mean, first of all,
And
his dad takes some steps to set him straight, or at least not make him worse. And then being exposed to Krenna and Alan and other people, you know, again, the kid's got a brain, not a huge
mhm.
brain, but he's got a brain,
Well,
and
and
he learns.
I can forgive a child for
Oh,
acting
sure.
like a child. Because that's what it was. This is a child acting like a child. I can forgive that, especially when still a child goes, "Oh shit, don't do that." This is kind of going to be a theme here in the show, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
hmm Yeah, the powers that be in this show mostly tend to be pretty reasonable, the ones we've met so far.
Yes, there's one in particular that isn't, and we'll get into him way later down the line.
Right.
But because we have a local sword lord, the local knights are, well, not even the local knights, the knights of the uh, the barony are called in,
hmm
and the captain of those knights is a wizened old man named Zenoff, voiced by Jay Hickman. That's Joichiro Yukihira in Food Wars and Diablo in my gift level 9,999 unlimited gacha. Zenoff is basically, all right, we need to see what's going on. And Coretta's like, all right, let's go! I'll do a sword duel! I can do it!
I can do it. I will do it 9 times.
Gerd is over here like, this is my like little daughter. I can't let her go do a sword duel. What is going on? And Zenoff's basically like, look, you got supposedly a sword lord. This is a national treasure. We have to verify it.
Yeah, well, first, yeah, we have to make sure that it's not that nobody's bullshitting, and also, see what she can do. And it's not like he's gonna hurt her or anything.
No, he's actually
Not on
very
purpose, but
clear. He actually trusts this test with his vice captain, uh, Lebrand, voiced by Houston Haves. That's Kless in Helk and Shun Iwasaki in Food Wars. And Lebrand is very skilled, but I can tell just the way that he fights with Krenna. He wasn't letting up in a way of making it easy, but he was also not going full in like if he was going to go on a full duel. He was very measured, and now a lot of that comes down to the animation in the show. And one thing I want to say about Hell Mode's animation, 9 times out of 10, it's standard animation. It's not bad, but it's not exceptional. But there are moments where the budget is spent, and one of those is this test. And they really let it get a character. They do it in a way to make the character shine. You get an idea who Brand is just watching him duel her. And yeah, of course, Krenna's easy. She's just overeager, but that also shines in the way she moves. And yeah, they're able to verify it, and so they officially want to take her in.
they're actually kind of surprised how well she does for her age and stature.
Indeed. So they want to take her in, but she's too young, and they are willing to let her stay with her parents while she's still young. Which credit to them again, because I could absolutely see in a much more shittier kingdom. Well, it's ours now. Bye.
Yeah, well, if they thought they needed to, I think they would have. But she's in a stable situation. The local lord is not an idiot. Um, and so the other thing is, there's some talk. I forget how long, but basically, not right now, but before she comes to the capital. But they're going to send somebody out here to, first of all, it's good to have a knight around. just in case a monster attack, but also to specifically to be her trainer, her basic trainer. So
Well,
that
eventually
hasn't happened yet, but
no, that doesn't act. I don't know what you're talking about because that's not what happened.
really?
What happened with her is that they were going to eventually ship her off to the academy, which does happen, and they have a farewell duel between her and Alan. Remember?
Well, before Alan left, yeah. Though she wasn't leaving yet at that, if I recall correctly.
I thought that was before she. Well, oh no, you're right. It is before he left. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
the
not
dumb
old.
one.
They're not old. They're not old enough yet.
Okay, I thought the idea was that she was going to go off to an academy regardless, though.
She will. Remember, they keep foreshadowing the academy, so Alan's going to
Yes.
wind up there somehow. What's her
Of
face?
course
We
he
haven't talked
is.
about that. Is going there. Her big brother. Again, so yeah, the academy is a thing, but they're at the point we're at in the story. They're still young.
Yes. Okay, maybe someone is going to go train her. Maybe I'm just misremembering. Like, this is one where a lot of the details just kind of fall right through my head. So
Right. So Alan left, as we'll discuss, to do his thing, but none of them are old enough for the academy yet.
yes.
So she is still there, and I seem to recall a mention of someone from the Knight's Order going out to train her at some point when she's old enough.
I don't
but I
remember
might be
that, but
misremembering that.
I also
I don't
might
know.
be misremembering. So
Irrelevant.
yeah, not exactly a big deal. Things come to a head when orders come down from on high, through Deboji. They need to basically double or quadruple a high amount increase the boar meat. And in order to do that, they're being asked to take on commoners. Now, commoners, serfs are locked to the land. Commoners can go wherever they want, but they're still low class.
Right. And so these boars are
Oh, they're
very, very
demon
large,
boar.
very, very dangerous.
Big demon
They're about
boar,
the
like,
size
they're
of an
nasty.
elephant. They're about the size of an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
But their meat is very, very good. And so this is something that Rodin figured out with some actual tactical advice from Alan, if I recall correctly, figured out a way to
You're
hunt
jumping
them
ahead.
reliably.
You're jumping ahead.
Okay.
So Rodin on his own is known for taking out the boar, and he could do, the set amount that they've been doing with him and his men. Because they come in on the sides and they kind of lock it in, and that's Rodin. Alan improves on this later. You were correct about that, but that's not right yet. But now they want
But it's still high risk, and it requires people who really know what they're doing.
And the problem is you get these commoners in here. Well, and of course that's forced down his threat. You can't say no to it. The commoners have no training, no experience, and when things kind of go bad, they panic, break the formation.
They're just there to kind of sponge XP, so to speak.
Well,
socially,
that's also,
and they refuse to take the attempted training seriously. So
yes,
these are people who kind of deserve to learn a lesson. Is the point?
Yes. Well, one of them is about to get himself killed in the process of his freakout, and Rodin, being the Giga Chad that he is, steps in and basically takes the hit. Thankfully, he doesn't die. I thought they were going to kill him there because, again, the title of the show is Hell Mode, but it hasn't really been that. Not really.
Yeah, I think it's describing Alan's leveling,
which takes him longer than anyone else. But when he's that hardcore at grinding, I don't really see the difference.
Yeah, I think that it might be either a bad translation or just a slightly maybe it's just a term that means something different in Japanese than what we would call it in English. I'm not sure.
I mean, the term Helmut comes from Japanese to begin with, and that kind of transliterated over here.
Right, but we don't really call it that.
We
I
do.
don't think.
I played games where it's called Hell Mode, and Hell Mode in video game terms means really hard.
Okay, yeah.
And that's not how you're right. That's not how it's used here. This is the point I'm making. Here it's just saying, oh yeah, it takes you longer to level, a lot longer to level.
Right. Well, we'll see. I mean, we are still in the early game, so to speak. So
that's true. We are actually up through episode 8.
And also the Hell Mode bit only applies to Alan.
Yes,
I think, not necessarily to everyone else.
We're 2/3 of the way through season 1. There is a second season coming though, so we're at this point where things are going bad with the boar hunts, And Roden survives, he's healed. A lot of that comes down to Alan realizing he's got to step up, take care of his family. He uses a lot of his abilities to help him make some money. He's able to get help with the getting a. Well, he's not the one. It's actually Gerda is able to get a cheap healing, an item that is not cheap, but he gets it for cheap because otherwise he couldn't afford it to heal Rodin, and that allows him to
Or at
survive.
least stabilize him. It turns out that, at least in game terms, it's a percentage heal, not a static heal. So it doesn't do as much as they were hoping, but it does stabilize him.
Which is enough to let him live.
Oh yeah, but it's he's in bed for a month or two, I think.
Yes, and that's yes. And during that time, that's where Alan steps up, starts doing jobs, finds a merchant that actually sold that thing who's like, I didn't get any money. I was like, oh, well, you saved my dad by doing that, so let me give you some stuff in return. And he makes his relationship with this merchant, which helps him get magic crystals he needs to level up his familiars.
Yep, because the monsters drop magic crystals as you'd expect, but only the lowest rank ones aren't of any use to anyone except Alan. So he's able to. This is an ongoing thing. He's able to get lots of them through other people for next to nothing, or just as favors, because no one has any use for these things. They usually throw them away.
So from there, we get a visit from, well, actually, that's me jumping ahead. This is where Alan realizes, hey, there's ways to do this safer, and he actually helps engineer. There's a whole lot to this. We're skipping around a bit, but we kind of have to because there's so much.
Yeah, basically, they figure out a way to do the boar hunting safer and at larger scale if necessary.
Yep, and that pays off, and that catches the Baron's attention. Butler von Granville, voiced by Chris Hutchison. That's now Yuki Okazaki in Clannad. That's Tomoya's dad. And White Demon in Eminence and Shadow. I actually really love this guy, the Baron. He's a really good lord. And of course, he brings his daughter, Cecil Granville, voiced by Kat Thomas. It's Anna Dahl, and from Bureaucrat to Villainous, Dad's been reincarnated, and Shalamy in Helk. She's definitely Daddy's little girl, but she's also very stuck up at first. There's a theme here.
Kind of. Her behavior mostly stays the same, at least to this point, but I think what's underlying it changes, and you can tell. At this point, it's more, I think, a defense mechanism than actual feelings.
She goes from thinking of herself as superior to a tsundere. There's a difference.
Yeah.
But Butler is a pretty cool dude. He goes to visit. He sees what's going on. He's very impressed. And, of course, there's a crisis that Alan helps with. This really impresses him, and he wants to give them a gift.
Alan, as not being directly involved in the hunts, but having knowledge of it, and also the local lord, what's his face, Deboji, knows that Alan is very articulate, so he assigns Alan to be the tour guide, essentially, for Lord Butler, and he does it very, very well. And it's funny because Cecil's very much looking down at him, but then she's the one, when she sees the actual hunt, they set up a platform so they can actually watch a kill. And of course, Cecil's never seen anything like this, so she faints, which is not unreasonable, I suppose. We should also mention that she is a mage or whatever.
Indeed.
So she has a talent as well.
She does. And the Lord Granville's whole response to all this is to offer basically a gift. And this is where Rodin steps in. It was Alan's plan to make them all commoners so they could go where they needed. But Rodin beats him to the punch. That's not what Rodin wants. Rodin wants Alan to serve the Baron directly so he can be lifted up. And of course, that is immediately agreed to.
Yeah, and Alan doesn't realize at first exactly that this means more in this world than it might in many others, as we'll explain in a bit. But
yes, indeed. That brings him into their family.
yeah,
He is
quite literally,
quite literally.
which is what I was
He's
referring to.
indeed. He is brought in at first to their main butler, Sebas, voiced by James Belcher, the man, myth, legend. That's Kenzaboru Tonbayashi in From Bureaucrat to Villain's Dad's Been Reincarnated, and Akira Himegami in Dust Beyond the End of the World. I love this voice actor. I'm always happy to see James Belcher. I can't quite call him legendary because the roles that he's in is not a super long list. It's not a nothing list. But whenever I have seen him, he's always a blast. And that's no exception here in Sebas. And Sebas kind of gives him some of the house rules and everything, and then sets him to kind of is he like the hall maid? No, that's the level below them, isn't it?
Yeah, I forget, but basically
He's the man
starts
servant.
at like one level below. Yeah, and specifically he's the manservant to
Cecil.
Who
So for the
is glad to have him, but keeps giving him grief because
for the
that's
rank
what
that
she's
he's
like.
in, he's not at all the way at the bottom, but he's just bottom within the family, which is made a point by Rickle, who is the kind of the head of the lower side of the family side of the servants.
He's Alan's direct report.
Yes. And Rickle is voiced by Nathan Wilson. That's Otozora in Ragnar Crimson, and Ataru Moriboshi in Urusei Yatsura, the 2022 remake. Rickle is a really cool dude. I actually really like him. But during all of this, Alan is actually given downtime. What is this fantasy world? The servant is given like you get the afternoon off. So he goes off and he tries to become an adventurer. And he's not allowed because he's a child.
Yep.
So he
plays up the cute annoying kid card to pump an adventurer who happens to be at the job board for information. Who, as much as he keeps telling Alan to go away, keeps answering his questions.
And that is Raven.
It's a great scene.
Oh, it's amazing. And this is, of course, Raven, voiced by Benjamin McLaughlin. That's Naoto in Rock of the Lady's Modesty, and Hagi in How I Attended an All Guys Mixer. I swear, a lot of this is very much a high dive cast. All the major high dive shows that I can think of have representation in the voice cast here. It's pretty cool. Yep. But Raven is like you said, he's like, you got to go, kid. But here's the answer. And what Alan realizes is that with the pass that he has from the Granvilles, he actually can get out on his own if he wants to. And he's perfectly safe. He's got his summons and everything. So he decides he's just going to go and, go take, fight some things and level up. You go power leveling as you do.
Yep.
And his summons actually call his attention to a party in need, a party in danger. And of course, wouldn't you know it, it's Raven's party.
Yep. And I think we also did briefly meet his two party mates at the guild just to establish that they exist. But yeah.
Yes. And well, I only remember them here. I don't remember them in there, but they might have been.
It was literally just, as Alan's about to head out, they come in to collect Raven. So it was literally just, hey, these people exist type of scene.
Well, speaking of, that's Rita, voiced by Jade Kelly. That's Suo in How I Attended an All Guys Mixer. And Lum in Urusei Yatsura 2022. We got the both of them. And then Milsey, voiced by Callie Marie Potter. That's Ryoko Totoni in Flower and Ashura. And Mia in My Gift Level 9,999 Unlimited Gacha. So these three are, I believe, C rank, if I remember right.
I think so, yeah. So they're somebodies, but not like huge somebodies. But they know what they're doing.
Indeed. And because he's able to save them, he asks basically like, hey, just can you keep my secret? And they're like, yeah, sure. And they kind of become friends. And
yeah, and he also like, but they're like, we got to do something else for you. And he's like, oh, hey, wait, can you gather like, these low level magic stones? It's like, as you're working, can you just keep them and get them to me? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yep. So that's kind of what they do. Although they kind of serve as kind of help. Towards the
Yeah,
end of
they're
what we've seen,
mentors.
they help him get some equipment. They introduce him to an
Mhm.
equipment shop. They're pretty
Yeah,
cool.
they're his guide to adventuring because they, as established, know what they're doing. Um,
Now
and
this,
you know,
yeah, this
they're good
last set
friends.
of characters, except for the last one, which we'll get into last, is the rest of the Granville family. As they're introduced. So Cecil's the youngest brother of the Baron's family, the youngest son, is Thomas Granville, voiced by Amanda Cielo. This is a relative newcomer in voice acting. A lot of these voice actors are relatively new, but in particular, I noticed it with her. But she does have some credits as Yu's mother in Bad Girl
Hmm.
and Taverna in Dust Beyond the End of the World. Thomas is just kind of this worrywart of a character, but I
Mhm.
kind of like him. He also is very excited when he starts learning. Oh, hey, Alan can hunt meat for
Yeah,
us.
he could use a mild dose of antidepressants on a regular basis.
I I
It's
can
not that bad, but yeah.
I can relate. That's probably why I
Yes,
like him.
I didn't want to say anything, but yes. Um,
And then
but yeah,
there's
he's a good kid.
he's a good kid. And then there's the matriarch of the family, Baroness Granville, voiced by Amanda Martinez, another new relative newcomer, but she's Liff in my gift level 9909 Unlimited Gotcha, and that's really the only credit I could find. But she does a great job here. Baroness Granville stands out about as much as the other moms in the series, to be honest. She doesn't do a ton,
Mhm.
but she's very caring. Um, what I find impressive about her is she has not let her station, and that's the Granvilles in general. She's not let her station change the way she looks at people.
Right.
And the last of the Granvilles, the eldest, who is at the academy we have mentioned and has not been back for a while, is Mihai Granville, voiced by Daniel Rigoyo. That's Kai in Call of the Night and Jiruo in Maiden Abyss. He's come back. He's worked on his swordsmanship. He's done some dungeon delving. He's gotten pretty good, and
I
he
forget.
actually kind of
Does he have a talent? I forget.
he
I think he does.
does. He does.
Okay.
He's a swordsman.
Yeah.
And he the one who doesn't is Thomas.
Yeah. So he's basically in line to inherit, which is another thing stressing him out. Because basically, I get the feeling this hasn't been fully explained yet, but I get the feeling that even if you're a noble, if you have a talent, you basically go to work. You wind up going to work for the kingdom, and you don't really have
Yes,
time to be
I
a
agree
noble.
with you, and I'll explain why in a minute because that ties into our last character.
Right.
Mihai's first thing that he does that I think is really interesting is he kind of eyes around what's going on, and he like challenges Alan to a sword duel, and it's like, hey, you want to fight me? And I was like, yeah, cool. Now he does best Alan, but even he's like, oh hey, you're not that bad, kid.
Yeah, and Alan's like, "Oh my god, I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was. If this kid at
Which
the academy can kick my ass, which is good for both of them, I think.
it's fantastic for both of them. I love the way the show treats its characters. Most of
Yeah,
these characters, up until this point, every character we talked about is a reasonable human being, and I love
right.
it.
And we should also mention that as much as Cecil is Daddy's girl, she has a huge Big Brother complex
Yes, from Mihai.
for Mihai, and I don't blame her. And
Oh no, Mihai seems like a
he dotes
badass.
on her in turn.
I mean, he
Um,
straight up asked Alan to watch over her, which frustrates Alan, but
mhm.
he agrees.
Yeah, well,
I mean, yeah, she's definitely the tsundere in
she's a
his
little bit
life.
of a pain in the ass, yeah.
She is, but it works. And at the end, we get a visit to the Granville estate from Carnell, voiced by Luis Galindo. That's Toshiro Kindaichi in ENGI Co. That's kind of the la 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 dude. And King Clay's in I Parry Everything. He is a Viscount rival to Granville. He's higher level than Baron Granville, but they are kind of rival families, and he's the guy who blabbed to the king, "Hey, this pork is real good. You should get a ton of it," which of course caused all the issues in the village because of the increased demand.
Right, because he assumed that the Baron's people wouldn't be able to do it. And so just in terms of the visual design, Henry VIII's, it's like Henry VIII's loser cousin. It's great.
Oh my gosh. One of the funniest things that happens with this guy, the Granvilles actually do not have a lot of pork because they're not holding on to it. They're pushing it all the way up. Yeah. So they don't even have it. But this guy's going to demand it. And of course, Alan's been hunting all the food. When they notice that he's taking out monsters, like, "Oh, we'll hire you to hunt food." So he's been getting them like really good stuff, not pork, but so they actually give this guy
fairly common horned rabbits, which is still very yummy, and the guy doesn't know the difference is the thing. So they just told him, "Hey, here's this pork, and it's actually horned rabbit," and he's like, "Oh, and everyone's just looking down their nose at him. It's great.
It's funny as hell. I love it.
Yeah, I love like the servants, the Baron's family, everyone's looking down on this guy with contempt.
Well, because he's a contemptible jerk.
Oh, totally. But it's just, it's funny.
One of the first things it does is like, "Oh, yeah, so your backwater province and your backwater people. How do you deal with it? Oh, God, you're obnoxious." So I get the feeling this is going to be a future villain of some kind. Because he is just awful. But I did enjoy the fact that he was not given what he wanted, but he thought he did. That's just
right.
Great.
Well, he came partly to deliver a thing, but really he came to brag that his kid didn't have a talent.
Now think about that. Didn't, which means they're not going to be. Which I agree with you. Implies heavily that those without a talent are the ones that are inheriting the titles and the things because they're not needed elsewhere.
Yeah, so I would say that I don't know enough to offer any concrete suggestions, but the incentive structure in the kingdom for the nobility needs a rework.
Agreed. And we're making inferences based on what's said. We could be wrong here, but it seems like this is the case. And the only other thing that's happened that we've seen is that Alan fights a monster that's too hard to break open, so he's asked if he can learn to see if he can get magic. He can't. It's funny. That's kind of the end of that.
Well, because he's confused because the reason he thought maybe his class had a late unlock of magic is because his int stat is way high now, and he's like, and so he's left wondering, okay, if I can't do magic, then what is this for?
Yeah, I'm
guessing it just affects his MP pool and which he uses with his monsters. So I think he's overthinking it, but
I agree with you, but we'll see. And that is as far as the 8 episodes of Hell Mode it has gotten us. But I gotta say, it is a pretty basic isekai, but for a basic isekai, this is pretty fun. This is the kind of isekai that makes me love isekais. I, of course, love the exceptional isekais. Your Re-Slimes, your Re-Zeros, your Mushoku Tenseis, your Bookworms. Those are, of course, top tier, great isekai. But even something like this is a basic isekai that manages to be endearing. And that is why the genre works. Because the fact that this is an isekai almost doesn't matter. Alan could just, if they took out the isekai element and Alan was, just the baby born to this world, we'd lose out on some of the jokes about, haha, the devs didn't respond to us, ha ha ha.
And
some of the gamer mindset.
The gamer mindset is the key here, but that aside from that, it's just a vehicle for the story. Kind of like how in Bookworm, Rosemine's Bibliomania is just really a vehicle for the story more than anything else.
Yes. In fact, I think that's Bookworm's a really good comparison for the kind of isekai this is, because her mania for books matches his mania for hardcore gaming, and that's about the extent of these. The rest of it is just a really interesting fantasy world, and I enjoyed it.
Yep. And so I think what we're building towards in the future is a world where Alan and Kreia and or Krenna, excuse me, and
Cecil and
and
some
Cecil,
of the
and
other
also
friends from the village.
one in particular who we didn't mention because he's at this point a very minor character, but basically a kid who's got an axe related talent. I think they're going to be an adventuring party in the future, and
I can see it.
while I'd give a 60 to 70% chance that Alan and Cecil are going to wind up getting married, just to given the way she's treating him.
I can see it actually. All right. Well, I think that's enough about Hell Mode. So I have a shout out to make. Yes, this is one of my shout outs for some reason. So today's shout out goes to the Y-Files. The Y-Files stars AJ Gentle and his buddy the Hecklefish as they go through urban legends, conspiracy theories, all kinds of stories of the supernatural and weird. And what's really interesting about the way the Wi-Fi's handles it, AJ is a skeptic. And yet he takes the entire first half of his episodes, and these are pretty meaty episodes. They can go for several hours, depending on what he's talking about. Shorter episodes are like 45 minutes, but most of them are several hours. But he'll take the first half completely taking it seriously. This is what the story is. This is what they say happened. Here's the evidence that they have. Here's what's going on. And then the second half is him going into the debunk side. Here's why this doesn't work. Here's some of the flaws in logic. Here's some of the details that they're not telling you that matter to this. For example, there's a story, I can't remember the exact name of the story. There's a story of a bunch of children who saw a UFO and saw aliens, and they were really freaked out. And the side of the story that tells you that it's real tells you all the kids all have the exact same description. And that's not lying, but it's missing some of the truth. They all had the exact same description of the aliens 2 days later. But if you go through their testimony of the description of those aliens day of, they're wildly different, which implies they all talked to each other afterwards and got their story straight.
Yep, and that's the thing that happens is even if you don't mean to collude like that, it's just human nature.
I don't think they did. I don't think this was like kids pulling a stunt. This is very much, like you said, human nature. But that's the kind of thing that AJ and Hecklefish get into. They don't cut in. They don't go in the middle of someone trying to tell what's going. Well, it's them, but they don't go in the middle of explaining the story to do this. They tell the whole story, and then they do the full debunk. And at the end, they go, all right, well, here, you've got the pro, you've got the negatives. What do you think? And I love that. It's both sides of the story, and then asking the audience what you think. I don't think you could possibly deal with this sort of content any better way.
That's beautiful. I mean, I know what I'm watching on my side monitor this afternoon because I used to love. There's another channel that used to be like this, Armored Skeptic, and then he went off into left field, and I don't know what he's doing these days. I unsubbed because he was just being very strange.
Armored Skeptic, it does do this still, but not like.
Well,
but what he has been doing lately is he has a series called Tell Me More. And it's basically he goes into it's a lot. It's kind of a return to form. For a while, he was doing this.
Okay, that's good because he had this weird thing he was constructing or whatever, and it felt to me like he right, and I didn't understand what was going on. And
he did explain what he was doing, but he only.
So I actually unsubbed. So if he's back on track, I'll have to check him out again.
Yeah.
Just
He
because
is
I
a
was
lot
getting
less.
these notifications for these weird things that I didn't care
He's a
about.
lot less. So yes, Y-Files is like Armor Skeptic, but it's a lot more detailed in longer form.
Okay.
Armored Skeptic, for a while was doing this thing where he was doing like exploring a conspiracy theory in detail, and he was very clear up front. But if you missed that, you missed that. That this is all how they're saying it is, and he's really just kind of putting it all together and trying to see how it feels. He was kind of exploring,
Right.
but he has been off of that kick for a while.
Okay. That's fine. Just
Yeah, no, but yes, that's a fair comparison. Okay. Anyways, Y-Files, check them out. I guess it's time for us to clean up house. So, Ark, where can the people find you?
I've been back in Valheim, back in Abiotic Factor. I've picked up Soul Mask and Windrose. My initial impressions of both were not terribly positive, but I need to spend some actual time with them. But in both cases, it's this thing that really good video games do, especially in this genre, that is very hard to do, and I have no idea what makes it or not. But it's something like Valheim is the gold standard for this, of making the world feel substantial and making your interactions feel real and substantial with the world. Whereas a lot of stuff that hasn't had that effort put in will feel more floaty and more insubstantial. Like the gold standard of how to do this wrong, I think, at least last time I played it, is a game called Orebound, which is like a survival crafting game where you're a dwarf, where you think I'd be all about that, but no, it just felt like it felt fake. So we'll see, but I'm glad those are doing well. What else?
I had you in Jump Space for a little bit.
Yes, I'm hoping to play more of that with you guys. Jump Space is good. Go if you're into multiplayer games, it's like Sea of Thieves but in space. Very good. And let's see. The Last Caretaker dropped a patch that it continues to evolve, and they actually, it's not perfect yet, but they vindicated my faith, and then they shadow dropped among other things, a performance patch that just massively unfucked the performance. So it's more vindication to my long suspicion that UE5 can be good. You just need to actually put in the work like any other engine. So don't judge a game on engine, judge it on whether the devs know what the fuck they're doing. And that applies to UE5 just like any other engine, I would say.
Okay. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at LaserKid Prime. You can find me on Blue Sky at LaserKid. And you can find me on the Toonami Faithful podcast, which we get on with friends of the podcast, Sketch, Kuro, and Stephen, and several other awesome people. And we talk about Toonami. Ark's on there as a guest sometimes. And yeah, check that out if you haven't already for awesome Toonami talk. We talk about the anime that's on Toonami. As for Simuldub Saints, you can find us right here on YouTube, which is probably where you're listening to us and watching us. But you also might find us on Spotify Podcasts and several other podcast platforms that pushes out to, because we do have an audio version of the podcast. I tend to recommend the YouTube version because I do put things on the screen to relevant to what we're talking about, and also try and put silly jokes in where I can. Been less and less as I've gotten more and more into this because it's just there's so many other things to do, but I do try to put jokes in where I find funny things to say. So that is the recommended, but it's also good side screen content if you just want to put it on. So yeah, that's where you can find the Simuldub Saints itself, but you can also find Simuldub Saints on social media on Twitter and Blue Sky at Simuldub Saints, and we've got a Facebook group, which is linked over on Spotify Podcasts and YouTube if you are so inclined. So that's where you can find us. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Simuldub Saints, so until next time, catch you later.
答えをくれた してしまうのだろう。どんなに傷つ